Hello and welcome to She Did That, the podcast that celebrates women shaping the promotional product industry, one bold idea, one fearless leap, and one inspiring story at a time.
I'm Emily Codner here with my fabulous co-host Amelia Model. Every episode we will be chatting with trailblazers, innovators, and everyday boss babes who are making big waves in the promotional space. One product, one pitch, one bold move at a time.
That's right. And today's guest is Jenny Straub, Director of Strategic Partnerships at Outdoor Cap Company. That was a mouthful. And she has got a story worth hearing. I've heard a little bit of her journey. The journey is definitely worth celebrating. And you guessed it, she did that.
Yay! Welcome, Jenny. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, ladies. I feel honored. Thank you so much.
Yay, we love having you here. So Amelia and I have had the privilege of knowing you for quite some time now via WLC, just being in the industry and just, your fabulous self and you're everywhere. And we love you for that. But for those who may not know you, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience and tell us how you got into the promotional products industry?
Okay, wonderful. As you said, I'm Director of Strategic Partnerships here at Outdoor Cap, and I absolutely love my job, love the company. We moved here 6 years ago when I was recruited and just posed it to my husband, Brian and Ian. They said, yes, let's go on an adventure. And we haven't looked back, and we just love it. We love the area. We love all of the things that are happening around the town. And I always tell people, come visit because you will love it too.
I love that.
I was in retail and I was worked for Bath and Body Works, Disney stores, Limited Express. And I just got tired of working for the weekends. Now I'm going to date myself. I answered an ad in the newspaper. I don't know if you know what that was, Emily, but you probably weren't born yet.
Thank you.
But it was for a regional sales manager for 11 states, and it was for Vitronic that became Vitronic Four Seasons, that became Imagine Brands. And I got the job and just started traveling all over the place. And that was back in September of 1999.
Wow.
Long time ago.
It's been a minute.
Doesn't feel like it though.
No. And I love that every day is different. That's the best thing about promotional products, I think. And that was true when I was in outside sales too.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And I love your reference to newspaper. That's kind of one of my questions I like to ask people when they say how they got started. I'm like, how did you find out? And there's a definite gap in the generations between like Career Builder versus Indeed, things that are obsolete that younger people have no idea what we're talking about when we reference different job sites. So I love you did the good old fashioned newspaper. You got your highlighter and pen and
Yes.
the ad. Yeah. All the on the telephone. Did all the
Yes, exactly.
So you did a big leap. The fact that your husband and your son were like, yeah, let's just pack up and move. That's crazy and not ever going to happen in my family.
I'm brave.
So was there a defining moment when you said, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, I was thinking about this question, and I will say when I went to the very first PPAI show, it was in Dallas at the time. I don't know if you remember that, but it kind of outgrew itself, right? So I was in Dallas and I worked the booth, and then like the networking afterwards and all the fun, I was like, oh, this is so my industry. I just absolutely loved it. And then when I was a regional sales manager, I was just always surprised and delighted really of how many distributors would like invite me over for dinner or on their boat or, in addition to like selling to them. And it just was this warm, friendly hug every time I met distributors. I mean, there were challenges too, but I just absolutely loved it. And I did become a distributor for a little bit, about a year. And I will tell you that gave me mad respect for distributors because I could not handle all of the details and going to a company and saying, let me work on your caps or whatever. And they're like, I don't have my logo. I'm like, well, what do you mean you don't have your logo? You're a brand, that kind of thing. So, and I think that's just what made me have the passion. And, early on, like even going to women's leadership conferences, that really even strengthened it even more.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and I say this a lot, I think what makes our industry so special is the relationships, how we are, we're small, but we all have a big sandbox we play in. But at the end of the day, like it's because the sandbox is so big, we can still support each other and be family with each other without being like, oh, you're my rival, I'm going to compete against you. So I think that's what makes us so awesome.
You're right.
Everybody's friends. Not everybody. Obviously, the world is not all friends and sunshine and rainbows. But when I go to a show, like you said, people were inviting you off of company hours to go hang out. Like I hang out with my friends. I'm like, how awesome is it that I get to do my job and I get to hang out with some of my besties when I'm on the road?
Yep, it's pretty special. So Jenny, you are involved in a lot of initiatives that support women in our industry and in general. We kind of touched upon that already. As you know, heart disease is the number one killer of women. So you've experienced how heart troubles can affect a family. Would you mind telling us your story?
Sure. I'd love to. So most of my family, I have 4 sisters and 1 brother. They live in northern Kentucky, which is about 5 minutes outside of Cincinnati. And I have a twin, Irish twin. He was just born 15 months after me. And he has always been in sports medicine, physical therapist. He was a minor league trainer for baseball. And so he was just a huge advocate for learning CPR and how to operate an AED and all of those things. And he just kept trying to convince his daughters, whose name is Peyton, her coaches to learn CPR and how to operate an AED, because he had his mentor's grandson die of a cardiac arrest at the age of 16 on the soccer field because the school had the AED locked up and no one knew how to get in the school and no one knew how to administer CPR. And so he unfortunately died right there on the soccer field. So it kind of motivated my brother to say, well, how much of this is a problem? And he learned that many schools did not have an AED or anything like that. So he just kept begging her coaches, and finally they're like, Mike, okay, fine, we'll take it. So he helped with another guy train 20 of her coaches. It was a club soccer field one Saturday, and they all learned it. And he said they were very quick learners. And then just 22 days later, he always took Peyton to her soccer practice. He always led the girls in strength and conditioning exercises, and then he would hand them over to the coaches. And then he always went to his car, grabbed his iPods, and then he would take a run. So on that very warm March day, which was very unlikely in Cincinnati, he started running and collapsed right there. And so the coaches were notified. They went over to him. One already ran to his car and got the AED, and then the other one started administrating the CPR. So he had only been down for 2 minutes when they started the CPR, and basically they saved his life right there, right in front of the whole team and everything. So, if he hadn't trained them, who knows what would have happened, and so it just was amazing. He ended up getting a lot of really local, and I mean, in the greater Cincinnati, kind of Louisville, Lexington area, attention, as well as a national podcast to talk about his experience. So it really has been a positive outcome. And he continues to spread that word. He is on their board of directors because now the mentor that I was telling you about, they started a foundation where they raise money to gift AEDs to schools all across the country. And my brother is on that board of directors and helps facilitate that. So
that's an awesome, scary story, but awesome story. Like the whole foresight of how he taught them, and then they used what he taught them not just days before, literally, to save his life.
Mm-hmm.
Whew, that makes you think a little bit. And we're happy your brother's doing well, and obviously he's helping educate so many other people, which is amazing. What advice would you give people to ensure they are ready in case of an emergency?
That's a good question, because, you know, I had the opportunity to tell his story at Women's Leadership Conference. And then I had several distributors come up to me and say, hey, we're doing this. We're buying an AED. We're going to hold classes. There was one distributor who their whole entire events team took a class, and that's like 14 of them. And so they now are rehearsed with that, you know, and the other thing is making sure that, you know, when you go to these events or hotels and things like that, you know where the AED is. So I check into the hotel, I ask where the AED is. They probably look at me like, what is this lady doing? But I'm always very, feel very positive that the hotels have a plan. And so I know where it is. Our company, Outdoor Cap, teaches, it's called hands only CPR classes, so that we can take it. And then we have AEDs in every one of our buildings here. And we have a safety director that goes over that from time to time to say who else wants to be trained, that type of thing. And just really like being super duper aware. Like when I'm at an airport, which is, you know, 2 or 3 times a month, it's interesting because it's almost like every third gate, there's an AED on the wall. And it's one of those things that psychology teaches you, like when you're super hyper to it, you see it, you know? And so I think that's really important.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to start looking now every time I fly just to see, because now I'm going to be aware of it, which is awesome information to know. So thank you for sharing with us. So now we can all kind of have our eyes up and ears open for that. Do you know of any of the symptoms that we should be looking out for?
Only because I consulted AI.
Very wonderful.
Yeah, but it is different for females than males. I didn't realize that so much, but the similar one is shortness of breath, right? But for females, it's not like a strong chest pain. It's just kind of a minor chest pain, you know? And then women tend to have like very severe fatigue, whereas a male doesn't have that. And in my brother's case, I mean, he ran 4 and 5 times a week, so he had no symptoms. But when they operated on him, I mean, he had 97% blockage for sure.
Wow.
So his doctors encouraged his whole entire family, you know, to really get checked. So we had the echo card. I'm terrible with medical terms, but you can have an EKG just in your regular doctor's office, because they all have the machines now, and they'll be able to tell you kind of what's happening, or if you need to do further testing. But just to pay attention and really to know your family's history. I mean, my mom had open heart surgery, but we just, you know, at our age, you just did. That wasn't until she was way older. So we didn't think that was even something to be concerned about. But it's definitely changed our family's outlook on things. And there was one doctor that knew Mike pretty well. And since they all lived near him, he offered to do all of that testing for free for our family. So I thought that was really kind of warm and a nice gesture too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anything you can get a doctor to do extra outside of those 10 minutes they typically allot you for an appointment.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely true for sure.
Yeah. Does your brother, when he speaks, does he share the importance of people being an advocate for themselves? Because a lot of times you go into the doctor, again, you have 10 minutes, like what's your symptoms, wham, bam, you're out the door, as opposed to being your own advocate and really saying like, this is something I learned about, or this is something that's being like seems a little off. Can we do these tests? Enforcing that. Does he encourage that or teach that in his
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, just with all of the interviews that he did with the news, and they really, it comes up every year, it seems, because now like it'll be his, they call it a rebirth day, and his company decorates his office and stuff a happy birthday every March 6th. Because they just want to celebrate him. So he does advocate for it, and he'll speak to anybody. I don't know if you remember Lamar Hamlin, when he collapsed on the field in Cincinnati. So Lamar has joined this organization too. It's called the One Shot Foundation, and Mike's gotten a chance to speak to him and talk to him about it as well, because that's the same thing with Lamar. If he didn't get CPR right there on the field, then they would have lost him as well. So it all kind of just happened around the same time. And so I don't know the exact numbers. I'd have to get back to you guys on that. But I mean, I would say in the hundreds and hundreds, they have donated these AEDs, because they're not inexpensive at all. I mean, that it's quite it's an expense. I mean, because we have 4 buildings, and Outdoor Cap put it in all 4 buildings. So I feel good about that.
And that's
Okay,
a
well-
necessary. Oh, I'm sorry, Amelia.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Emily.
I was gonna say, and that's a necessary investment. Like, that's just not something that you just fool around with. That is investing in your people and their safety and their health. Like, I would say that's a necessary thing, not a frivolous thing to just throw out there.
Yeah, and we have what's called an emergency plan, because that's kind of what those 2 coaches did. Because one person has to take control, and you have to say, Emily, you call 911. Travis, you're going to go and grab the AED. I'm going to do the CPR or whatever. So that's kind of the thing too that they teach you in the CPR, is like, you've got to have an emergency action plan. It's called an EAP. And we are taught that here too.
Awesome. Well, just to wrap everything up, is there one message you hope every woman walks away with after hearing your story? What would that one message be?
Learn CPR. Just learn CPR, because you don't know. It could be your mother, your father, your husband, your friend, whatever. Somebody, look at our age range of all of our distributors. I mean, we do have a range of people. And so if you could be the one that could save their lives, I mean, how amazing would that be? So, and you could just take it a YouTube channel. I mean, you could just look it up on YouTube, and they say it could take 60 seconds to really learn. So I would encourage that for sure.
Staying Alive, is that still the beat that they encourage you to?
No.
Everybody knows that song. Just sing it in your head, and you can do your pumps at the same time. And
that's good.
You don't have to do the mouth to mouth anymore. I know I've done CPR classes throughout the years, and I feel like every 5 years it changed what they taught, how you should do it. But anyone I feel like should be comfortable taking just the chest compression part on if they're worried about anything else. So love it. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you so much for, your words of wisdom, and for helping, your story probably helps at least one person today. If anything, that's a victory. So thank you so much. And thank you to everybody for joining us on She Did That today. We look forward to seeing you the next time. But for now, be inspired. Or I'm sorry, for now, take it in, be inspired, and then go do that. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.